Welcome, everyone, to Exile's first original podcast. We're your co-hosts, Brooks and Cory Raley.
Today we're going to talk about how we got started with Exile, why we chose Exile, and how we ended up building the rifles that we did.
And I guess when I think back of our childhood, being brothers, you're 5 years younger, and I think about our hunting experience, our baseball time together every Saturday around the ballpark, and hitting and throwing and all that fun stuff. I think that this has been a cool extension of growing up. You know, we still get to do something we're passionate about daily. You know, have a reason to come hang out in the garage, a reason to go machine something, a reason to go stand in a room and talk about things we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so I think I really enjoyed that whole process. But for people that don't know, I still play. I play in the major leagues. Cory played in college ball at Texas Tech. I played at Texas A&M. Older brother played at Oklahoma. Yeah. He's now a third base coach there. Dad played in the minor leagues with the Toronto Blue Jays. It's a family that love baseball, right? And we also loved hunting. So we had two things, right? And we love mom, right? So, so it's just kind of one of those things that this has been cool, kind of an extension of our passions. Mm-hmm. And when I think about baseball, I naturally think with, Saturdays and Sundays, sitting on a tailgate, bird hunting, but also, every chance we got in the winter, summer, anytime we could, we're out in a deer blind, we're out chasing, whatever kind of animal.
Yeah. No, it was a huge part of our childhood, just getting out there with Dad and, learning a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Get that gate.
Go get the gate. Get out of the way. You're moving too slow.
Why are you so loud this deer blind?
Yeah, exactly. Can you stop kicking the blind?
That'd be
really helpful. There might be a deer show up if you stop kicking the blind and talking.
Baseball being probably it was the priority.
Oh, yeah.
In our family, we traveled all over San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. It was always something that we pursued as a group, but none of us could follow each other's tracks. That was my favorite part. Like,
well, I'm not going there.
Yeah, I mean, Russell went to Oklahoma. I'm like, that ain't for me.
No way.
I'm gonna go this place over here at College Station, and you ultimately kind of ended up at Tech and going to the College World Series and getting to experience those things. Mm-hmm. I think that was just the time and the effort kind of prepared us for where we are now.
I think that's where kind of like the underlying passion of kind of getting into rifles all kind of started. Right. And then
cold mornings, deer blinds, all the stuff, gate getting, all that fun stuff we got to do growing up.
Yeah, exactly. Right, like spending time with Dad and getting out there and learning how to, appreciate like the small things. I think that's like one of the cooler parts of doing all that. And then, kind of go to college. We do the baseball thing. Baseball thing doesn't really, work out towards the end with some injuries and stuff. But looking for jobs after college, and we got to talking, and you were into building some custom rifles at that time, but just like, man, what are we gonna do? And you're like, hey man, why don't you go to gunsmithing school? We're like, that's interesting.
I was always big on bold ideas, so I threw that out there. I didn't think you'd actually bite that one.
You're like, man, that might be pretty interesting. So I don't know, we dive in and we find that school in Lakewood, the Colorado School of Trades, and kind of full send it. Don't really know what we're getting into. Have like a you like send in a resume of like all the things you've never really done, trying to fluff all that. But so you get in there and then, you just hit the ground running. You start, I guess like the overview of the school is just like basic general knowledge of kind of all firearms and kind of how they work, which is like great for understanding, what's the purpose, the evolution, why things are popular now, why things have kind of phased out. So you learn kind of like from the general idea of firearms. You learn how to file and you learn how to polish to match grade. And, you just start at like this like intro level to everything. And then you can finally like kind of appreciate all the craftsmanship that goes into this stuff. So like, we were watching videos like in orientation and stuff of like Holland and Holland. And like, that's like obviously the pinnacle of like custom rifle or like craftsmanship and everything. And like, these guys over there in England and stuff, and they're carving on wood stocks. And you're like, man, I don't even know what you call that. You know what I mean? So
what tool is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are we going to do that here? So I don't know. That was just like a cool, really, really cool kind of like dive in like, oh, one day, we might get to do that. So I don't know, you progress through the whole school and you go and you start like learn how to machine and hopping on manual lathes and mills and all those kinds of things. And you learn like, wow, you can do some really incredible stuff with some somewhat basic tools, you know, like that have been used for years and years and years. Then you build your first custom rifle, which is kind of cool, you know. What we know now, maybe a 220 Swift wasn't the best choice, but it was cool. Dad owned one.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool a long time ago.
You still have it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You got to keep
it sits there. It sits in the safe, and it just, you know, my hand done wood stock, you know, just trying to preserve it all.
Well, I mean, let's tell everybody how long that took you to build that.
Oh yeah. So, the wood stock alone was like, it's either like 40 or 60 like man hours. So you start with like a semi-blank. It's like rough all the way around, and then you start to like file it and shape it out, and you know, you got this old grumpy instructor that's like, that's not good enough, you know, kind of wearing you out. And you're like, well, never done this before. So I have to take a break, you know, like I'm trying here. So anyways, you know, you do all that kind of stuff, and you check in the free float, and then you bed it, and then you do all these things. So you just like learn a rifle from top to bottom. So it's really cool. Like your very first one of just completely diving in, and just like the intimacy of like building a rifle. Like it was so cool to kind of do that. And like all your like classmates and all that stuff are like right next to you, kind of like in the trenches with you, and everybody's, you know,
looking over their shoulder like, mine's better than yours.
Exactly. You're like, this guy's covered
terrible.
in like
letting
paint and stuff, and you're like, well, I'm not as bad as that guy. You know what I mean? So
I'm top 12 of this class.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, let me tell my part of how that story started. So Cory definitely approached me, you know, he's too modest to tell you, but he was a good college baseball player and played in the College World Series and with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Wreck 'em, right?
Wreck 'em.
But post college, you know, he did approach me afterwards, like, "Hey, man, like, what should I do?" I was like, "I don't know. There's 8 to 5s out there. You can do lots of things. You're bright. You'll figure it out." He's like, "I don't really want to do that. Like, what do you got?" And I was like, "Man, I bought like 3 or 4 custom rifles. We're from Uvalde. Like, what do you think about gunsmithing school?" And you were like, And usually when I drop an idea on you, it's never like an automatic yes. It's usually like absolutely not. That's terrible.
You're like, well, I don't know.
And I'm like, so I threw it out there, and then, you know, a couple of days later, I feel like it was pretty quick. You're like, "Yeah, no, we're going." I'm like, "Have you talked to your now wife, like Sammy, about this?" And he's like,
yeah,
I think
she likes Colorado.
she likes Colorado.
Yeah, she could probably work out there.
We'll load up in the car. We'll go. And so I remember coming up to Lubbock and helping you pack up. We took a U-Haul up there, dropped you guys off. We're like, "All right, well, welcome to your new house, and and good luck in this little single bed and the whole deal." And and I just remember through the whole period of time, just out of the gate, how fired up you were with messing with files and you know, whatever that little drill bit thing was that you had all the different sizes of.
That little tap project.
The tap project, and how frustrated you were with how much time you logged, and your guy gives you like
the amount of small taps you break on that deal. You know, you're like tapping like, you know, 4 to 46 thread, you know, screws, and you're just like, man, who does this?
Yeah.
Who makes a screw that small?
I just remember you being like, "You would be surprised how many hours I've logged and how bad this is." Like I got. So I was like, all right, well that's good, because it kind of, I feel like that's their whole goal, to break you down from the jump. On how important it is of accuracy, measurements. And it kind of takes you into the skill set of, hey, you're going to mess around with a $50,000 to $150,000 machine. We'd rather you be cautious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think they do break you from the jump. But you know, I feel like that through that whole progression, especially when you were coming out, it was a development of interest. And I think guys pick different categories. And but yeah, kind of elaborate on where you started to kind of lean. You know, ultimately we became Exile Firearms first, but where you started to lean and find your passion for custom rifles.
Yeah. So jumping back into it, we finished that first custom rifle up in that 220 Swift we built, and like you finally go out and you shoot it, and like it's pretty accurate, you know, probably like 3/4 inch group, 1 inch group, you know. So like the back end of it, you can kind of like start picking your own projects, and we were like, well, you know, I'll buy custom action and, you know, dive into some of that. And then you build, like, I think the next one I built was like a 6.5 284. It was back in like 2016. So so you dive in, you build that, and you're like, okay, that one's a little better. You know, start shooting a little better ammo with like the nozzler stuff and everything. You're like, okay, we're on a roll here, you know. Still working through the kinks of all that kind of stuff, but like changing up components. Like, I think that was like right when AG Composite like opened, you know, and they had like, I think the stock was like one of those cat what was cat stocks or something. But it was cool, like first time working with that stock, whenever the last one was wood, and just kind of like, oh, this is really cool material. Oh, this is a lot different than the wood, and just really like open you up to like, what's the possibilities with this? Where do they stop, and then you get online, and then, managers out there, McMillan's out there, and you're just like, wow, there's 25 stocks from each of these companies. There's steel barrels from all these different ones. There's contours out the wazoo. You know what I mean? It's just unlimited options. You can build hunting rifles. You can build PRS guns. Like, sky's the limit, And just, I guess, my personality is just wanting to explore all those opportunities and like find where the efficiencies are, and really what fits someone. Like, if you came to me with a goal, let's try to pick the best components possible. So it's kind of like these Legos we always used to play with, and you're like, oh, look at this cool thing I built with just this random lot of Legos. Right. Like that was like a lot of it. And then there's the craftsmanship side and the accuracy side, and like all those are very rewarding in themselves whenever you finally get to the finished product. And everything kind of worked out, and you're like, oh, cool. At first it was like, I hope this works out. And like after, all the hours and time you put in, you really refine that process and just really get in a groove of and knowing
what's important to a custom rifle.
Yeah, what's important, and then what's about to happen if we do these steps like we're supposed to, and the results that we're going to get from variable, like a lot of variables, like factory ammo is constantly changing and maybe not loaded to the precision that hand load stuff is, but building things so reliably and consistent that we can grab almost any box off the shelf and it's going to shoot really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people are kind of uniformly going for, especially, like you said, circling back to where we started. Like, there wasn't a single hand-loaded or custom piece of ammo that we had in our house. It was factory, whatever y'all got on a rack, baby. That's what we're going to run with.
Give me some core locks.
Yeah, core lock. I mean, what's this box? $15?
Yeah.
You got 20 of them in here? Sweet.
Whoa,
that'd be a heck of an afternoon.
That's right. Yeah.
But no, okay, let's keep it moving. Coming out of school, me and you have a conversation. You were looking at being an armorer at different places. You were looking to go work for, TS Customs or potentially putting your resume out there and traveling.
Short action customs.
Or short action customs, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me where we ended up and how we got there.
Yeah, so, fast forward through school, get that little experience under your belt of building custom rifles. And like you said, looking at all the opportunities there are to build bolt-action rifles. That's what I was passionate about. Learned all about revolvers to ARs to shotguns to everything. Really found your niche in bolt-actions, really passionate about that. So where can we go work and continue to do that and, get to learn more and try different components and all that kind of stuff for a job. And kind of go through that whole route and just kind of end up being like, we're going to have to go up north, going to have to move to places don't really know anything about. It's possible, but call you up and say, I don't know, man, this is just don't know about all this. I don't know what the full career path looks like and all those kinds of things. And then we get there and you go, well, why don't we just do it ourselves? You think you can build bolt action rifles? And I said, yeah, I can build bolt action rifles. And you say, well, let's just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but also I'd seen enough of your rifles. I'll be your biggest critic at times. I know I've been that over the time, especially being your older brother. But when I first saw your 220 Swift, when I saw some of the other rifles you built, some of the guys you built while you were at school, and you're getting calls back like, that's the best gun I ever had.
Yeah.
And we had a hosh-posh components on these things.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you got the best barrel or anything. You're like, they shoot.
Yeah.
And so that gave me just that first initial confidence, like, he knows what he's doing. Do I know what he's doing? I have no idea what this guy's doing, but I trust him.
Somebody's saying it's all right.
Somebody likes these, and I just kind of leaned into that. I'm like, he's passionate about this. Passion goes a long way in anything that you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm gonna open this door. We're gonna do this together. And ultimately, I felt like we fought a little bit. Just the idea of like, man, maybe we play it safe. Maybe we go and do it, out of the barn, and you start small and you have a second job and you just kind of like, let's just ease into this. Let's not be risky. But if anybody knows me, I'm like, man, I'm not doing it like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. Let's send it.
Yeah.
And let's do it the best of our ability. Let's do trial and error. Let's learn as we go. and kind of change the game. We're not getting in this business to just be kind of like, average. We've never pursued that. I was like, so I definitely leaned in you heavy on how do we improve and innovate and do things like that. And that took a period of time. I mean, we're 6 years in and we're still learning a lot. But that was always the vision on Exile. And, but yeah, just to follow up on what you had said, when we finally go, all right, let's do it. I'm like, okay, well, what's the first step? Like, let's find a building. Okay, well, there are no buildings that we could formally kind of renovate, et cetera. So we're like, well, let's build one. So you get dropped off at Colorado, we drive, you get back, kind of start to set up shop in Uvalde, and you're the GC on site for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Heck, you watch that.
No clue.
Yeah, no clue what we're doing.
No clue. Was I like, what, 24? Then?
Yeah, 24, and you're
just like,
might as well have a helmet on while you're out there.
Yeah, no idea. No idea.
But no, you watch the asphalt be poured and the sign get hung and the whole deal. But I think that's kind of what we wanted to lean into. Like, we're not afraid to take risks. We're not afraid to learn as you go. Yeah. You're going to make mistakes, but I mean, you got to be willing to fail to kind of gain any ground. So getting that building built, open our doors in late 2018, kind of right around Christmas time.
Yeah.
I remember us taking pictures kind of in front of our first sign, and we were like just smiling and like, okay, well, the doors are open. Like, who's going to come through here first? And I just remember that first guy that came in was like, man, I want to get suppressors put on. Like, can you thread these? And you're like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're like, sprint over to the counter and like,
you want me to take it apart right now?
Right here. Like,
right,
I'm not ready. I'll have it out in an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was.
Hey, you want to watch me? It's like all that. Yeah.
And just kind of starting there. Yeah. And I guess there's no better time than kind of touch on why we started with Exile Firearms, and I'll let you kind of elaborate on that. But go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously had like a base knowledge of everything. So really the school was a lot of like gunsmithing. We learn a lot of like how to troubleshoot and things like that. There's a lot of the curriculum there. So it felt like that was an opportunity to kind of like ease into it all. You obviously have these skills, they're usable, all that kind of stuff. So start Exile Firearms. We go get Anthony in Cerakote. To Cerakote, that's a story in itself of getting him up to par and both of us learning along that process. But yeah, just diving in real general to start, really passionate about rifles, but, got to keep the doors open and really connect with people and, trust me on doing a good job on this. And then you may build a custom rifle and, really getting people to jump off in the deep end and really trust you. Just the grassroots approach of how to help them along, and then they trust you and go from there.
So when did you know? Actually, I know when Dad was running around town, hey, my boy's over here opening a gun shop, etc. And, some guys from work bringing different stuff. And my favorite was you get that, what is it?
It was like a Savage 99, one of those like rotary lever actions.
You've had random pistols, painted a rifle, American
pellet gun,
right, a pellet gun, not an airsoft gun, but a pellet gun.
Yeah, literally like a CO2 pellet.
Can you fix this?
Yeah,
I mean, I can try.
It's like plastic. It's like a plastic mechanism. You're just like, I have no idea how a CO2, but I'm gonna try and figure it out. It's so funny.
But those are the humble beginnings, and I wouldn't trade those days for anything because it makes you find your passion in something.
Yeah,
and honestly, I mean, there's probably not many people have as much experience as you do across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably go off on all the shotguns you fixed.
Oh, yeah.
You're running around different ranches cleaning guns and meeting people and the whole deal. So like you said, the grassroots approach, but it paid off.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be here today without that.
Yeah, for sure.
And, through this whole time of messing with airsoft gun or BB guns and, random pistols that rusted over in 1940.
Yeah.
You were pursuing these bolt action rifles.
Yeah.
And kind of give me the rundown on where Exile started with the steel barrels.
Yeah.
And then kind of what's progressed to what we're doing now.
Yeah. So started with the steel barrels because that's obviously in 2016, or I guess 2018. It's a popular deal. There's guys everywhere building them, all incredibly accurate rifles. They're choosing these like heavier barrels, longer barrels, all the velocity, all this and that. And start there, really successful kind of out of the gate with the accuracy and stuff. And then, the carbon fiber stuff, of course, to come on the market. And you're like, what's this interesting kind of piece? I always thought these steel barrels were heavy and too long and some of those things. And what's this carbon all about? So we get in there and we, you kind of read online, checking it out, and guys are like, they're just not accurate. They're just not accurate. They're just not accurate. You're like, well,
and also
I don't
tell
know.
people at this time where we're getting our information.
Oh yeah, like forums. That's like the main source of everyone just getting into this. You're like, I wonder what this guy on this forum has to say. So you're going on there, and everyone's like, they're just not as accurate. They're just not this and that. So you're just like, I don't know, man. This is a really cool component, like lightweight, but good diameter on them. Really good, look good with suppressors and all those kinds of things. There's so many advantages to like carbon fiber versus these long steels that we were kind of used to. So you dive in and you start chambering them up, and you're like, I don't know what all the fuss is about. These things really aren't that bad, Maybe these other guys that are cutting them got a little different process that work better with steels, but the way we're doing it, and after all, like the painstaking internet ravaging, all that kind of stuff to trying to figure out this like, chambering process that we have now, it's like, I don't know, man. I'm not having the issues that some of these other guys are talking about. And you're like, oh, really? So what is it? Like we start with the Desperado Slim, right? That's what we called it back then, Desperado Slim.
The Ranger TI.
Yeah, the Ranger TI.
Yeah, because we had some titaniums from Lone Peak.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're trying to be out front in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I feel like once carbon came out, the very respectable rifle companies across the industry, from Hill Country to maybe not Gunworks at the time, but several of the people that we followed and kind of like learning from as we were going, they weren't really touching carbon yet.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an opportunity for us to be like, if this works out, great. If it doesn't,
watch this.
Yeah. Watch, we got to kind of run with this and figure this out. So on that note, I think there's an opportunity here, especially when we were betting on ourselves to make this work, cover, what you learned that makes a rifle accurate. What after post school, coming to Exile Firearms, you're still pursuing accuracy. They don't. What people don't know is you come out of gunsmithing school, you are not ready to rock on opening your own gun shop. You are not equipped. There's a pursuit of accuracy. There's a system in place, protocols. All of the stuff that you've learned.
Yeah. Especially whenever you get into like the custom components, right? You start swapping stocks that aren't typically used on these, and just the variables of components really have the opportunity to create multiple problems that need solutions. So you really get into the deep end of trying to, solve those issues. But on the accuracy side, you leave gunsmithing school and you have this very old school way of chambering, of like how to hold the barrel and where you indicate and things like that are not even close to what we do now. Those made fine rifles, but to what we do now, we're indicating of like 2 10,000s, on two parts of the chamber and then the two parts of the muzzle. Just, I guess the whole thing, like the journey of learning accuracy is your barrel is curved. The bore of your barrel is curved inside this steel, and it may be something you can't physically see, but your bore is curved. So if you can start the bullet into the rifling straight and it comes out straight, what happens in between on a good barrel is somewhat irrelevant, Yeah. And that's why you buy, like, obviously the premium components and stuff that way.
They're a little more controlled, a little higher quality.
Yeah, just a little less variable, right? You got to chase it less. I think that's like premium components. That's what they give you. You can get other stuff to work, but like I used to have that analogy of like if you're building a tower and then you stack these like quality components up, like the straighter your tower is going to end up being. But like say you start with a factory action, and you use an okay barrel, and then you don't bed the stock, and then you're just shooting factory ammo, and you're just like your tower's wobbly. We may get to the end result of an accurate rifle, but there's also a chance that one of those components is not as good and is really knocking you out of whack. And it's something along those lines and there's just so many variables whenever you're chasing accuracy and things like that I don't know, the more you can solve issues and the better components that you can buy, the more repeatable your results can be. Right. So,
and that's where you ultimately ended up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like you got the confidence, I can build with carbon fibers because I can control all these variables. Mm-hmm. The way we bed. Yeah. And the way I machine. Yeah. Like still to this day, there's not been a rifle that's left our shop that you didn't build. Yeah. I think that's super cool. Yeah. Anybody that's ever bought a gun from you or us, they should know that.
Yeah.
They give a call, like, you probably remember the paint on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
maybe not the
still get
serial
that all the
number,
time.
but guys are like, man, that's super cool. And I think that's what we built our company on, of the repeatability, controlling the variables that you're supposed to control, putting out a superior product. But at the end of the day, like, if you need anything, I got you.
Yeah, I literally did it all once.
Once,
Do
like,
it again.
I'll do it again.
You know, yeah.
And I think that's rare. I
Yeah.
really do. And I think that's been something that's kind of happened over time. I don't think that was originally our vision, but I think we always wanted to be different, unique, and create this experience for people that elevated their experience overall of hunting, success, understanding what their rifle is capable of, all that.
Yeah, I think something like, just to touch on it, like the experience side, that's something I'm so passionate about, is like really connecting with people. And some of the first questions we ask when guys come in to build rifles, it's like, what's your goal with this rifle? What are you looking for? You want lightweight, you want this, you want that, and just, how do you like recoil? You good? You want it suppressed? It's just really like figuring out their goals and then executing them, having these educational caliber conversations, making sure these guys know exactly what you're getting. Do you want to talk about some of your first builds right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if I had come into your shop, it would have been a very like unique experience. And I think that's what we're trying to create. Like, so we kind of reverse engineered this, but obviously I got the pro ball, I got a little, made a few bucks playing ball, and I'm like, man, going home in the off season, I'd like to have custom guns. Everybody I know growing up had them. Never had one. I had a 25-06 Encore. I'd rather just kind of elevate my game, right? And so you start talking to people, and you're like, hey, this guy in San Antonio makes custom rifles. Like, sweet. What's his number? And you go to forums, and so I'm like, I remember spitballing with Dad, and I was like, hey, what's a good caliber? He's like, I don't know. Let me call a buddy of mine, right? It turns into like this group think activity. A couple days later, like,
nothing good comes out of
it. I mean, I didn't know what I was talking about. So he's like, 7 rim mag. I'm like, all right, cool. Belted case, like, sweet. Everybody shoots 7 rim mag. Killed everything in, North America with this thing, exactly. Right? And so I'm like, all right, and the next conversation is like, all right, barrel length.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I'm going to suppress this, right? The new thing to do in 2016 or 15 was you get a suppressor.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're,
Yeah, it was still.
You're going to be on John Wick before John Wick was John Wick.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, I'm definitely getting a suppressor. And I think a good option, muzzle velocity, et cetera. You want to shoot 1,000 yards, and I mean, I hadn't shot more than 200 yards.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't know why we're talking about 1,000.
Whoa, hold
yeah,
on.
that's a long way. Yeah. Put your finger in the air kind of deal. And you start to build this gun, like 26-inch barrel. Okay, steel barrel. I don't even know the contour, but it was heavy.
Probably I don't know, like a Remington varmint or something like that.
It was heavy, right? And then I think I had a Manor stock. Took it all to get Cerakoted, whack, another $400 there. Thunder Beast can, 1,000 plus a stamp and the whole deal. So I'm a good 4,500, 5,000 into this without optics.
Yeah.
And then I slap a big old knife.
Steiner.
I find a Steiner. They got me on the YouTube or forum again.
Yeah,
I got a
exactly.
huge Steiner, but man, quality glass.
Yeah, exactly.
I got really a lot of adjustment.
That's what those guys said.
So
they're never wrong.
So I got it all right. I remember the first time we drove down to the lease, and I'm all fired up. I can't even put it in a gun case. It's so dang long. The can on it. So Dad's looking at me like, "Are you nuts? What is that?" Got this. I'm like, twisting on this kid at the end. No. This thing's awesome.
No, trust me, Dad.
Trust me. I've hand loaded in my garage.
Yeah.
Shot it like 6 times. We're ready to roll.
No, we're ready.
And
never been more prepared.
Steer stance, no chance.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember being so pumped, like a first day of school kind of experience.
Yeah.
And I try to stick it in the front seat, right? And so I try to stick in the floorboard, and it's almost in the back seat. Like I'm putting my arm on it like this instead of like comfortably down low. Yeah. He's like, my goodness.
So what have you got?
What have you got here? I'm like, this is the gun you told me to build. Don't give me a hard time. And we get out there, and just my whole day, I remember like trying not to hit the door with it coming out, trying to climb the deer blind, hit the roof, and I'm just like stick it in the window, trying to get it out the window, and just I'm like, I don't think I did this right.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, but you was like almost like buyer's remorse, but you're like, I can't tell anybody. I got way too much pride.
No. I got way more pride than that.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, no, trust me.
Trust me.
Custom rifle, I know.
You don't have one. Not like me. And just going through that whole experience and a whole hunting season, ultimately, the deer that I ended up harvesting that year was the last day of the season. Remember, we rattled him in.
Yeah.
And I remember, I finally got a hog saddle on top
Yeah,
of my tripod, and I took up the entire bed. Y'all were having a duck like it was a crane swinging over the top of you.
I'll stand back here.
Yeah, Dad was rattling around, and I remember just like swinging this thing over, and I'm like shooting. I'm like, all right, this ain't gonna work, And I think I went back to the drawing board after that. I built another one, but still, it was steel. It was heavy. I didn't, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so I knew there was a lot to be improved. And I think that's, when I called you about school and stuff, I think my mind was already rolling. Like, there's got to be a better version of this. There's got to be something that people can do, get you in the right gun, get you in the right caliber, put the weight in the right place of a rifle. It should be suppressed. It should be short.
Yeah.
And where's the industry not?
Yeah.
Because there is risk, right? Like, you buy a $900 proof research barrel. You don't get to cut it down. You don't get to change it. If you mess it up, that's just $900 gone.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't like the stock. It's not like, oh, I would put it on eBay and sell it for exactly what I bought. It don't work like that, And so there's a lot of risk reward there. And so the importance of making sure you nail it. So I think
just having a guide, someone to help you through, hey, what are the negatives of maybe this decision? Maybe they're not all wrong, but let's just understand the pros and the cons of each decision that we make whenever we're deciding on components. Let's just understand that. And then whenever you get it, even if there are some shortcomings of whatever build someone particularly chooses, that was all up front. You understand the limitations or, things that you're just going to have to overcome, like barrel length or something on a long action Magnum cartridge or something along those lines. Like, those are necessary evils. We need enough barrel to burn the powder, but if we're going to suppress them, they're just going to end up getting long. Right. So,
But to circle back too is what you've learned in this whole process is like versatility is not always the best option.
100%. Yeah, you get guys all the time. They're like, I want one gun to do it all, and you're just like, that may exist, but it's either overkill for something and underkill for something else. And everyone wants like tremendous value in a rifle, like in making these kinds of investments and things like that. They want tremendous value in it. So they always like, hey, bigger is better. I don't know if we want to dive into like all that, but certain guns are too much for certain types of animals, period. They don't work as effectively. Just because you shoot a 300 grain bullet does not mean it's going to work effectively on game that is small and at close range. The bullets just don't perform. They poke holes, and that's not the right choice, So that's why all these cartridges in the market exist, is to fill these certain voids. So like, that's why understanding people's goals, and man, if you're here to hunt whitetail deer and you're going to shoot them out of a deer blind in South Texas, that is an extremely different gun than a long range elk gun. Those are not the same. Yeah. And they have no business being in the same category.
Or being the same gun you grab to go do both deals, right?
Exactly.
Each animal you hunt has its own style of hunting, from safari style. If you're in West Texas and you're tracking animals that are in the flats or on top of mesas and mountains, and to whitetail hunting and you're shooting from a deer blind or a truck gun or going and hiking 10, 12, 15 miles pursuing sheep
or something
and elk and everything else. Like, versatility is important. All of us want value. I would agree. That's where I started.
Yeah.
What's a good all around cartridge, right? That's probably your number one question.
Man, if you could get like a Google deal on like how much that's searched every day, I mean, it would blow your mind. Like best hunting cartridge ever? ? So.
From 2018 to 23, we're in Uvalde. Now we're here in Southlake. That was a great chapter in our development of our brand, development of our company.
Learned a lot.
Learned a ton. Yeah. But super, super excited about where we are now and where we're headed.
Yeah. No, it'll be fun. We're looking forward to all the new changes and all the new clients we're going to meet here, and just really continuing to grow and, keep pumping out great rifles.